I've been waiting months to talk about this topic.
Let's get into that.
Hey y'all, I'm Andrea.
I'm Nathan.
And you're joining us for Family Friday on the Marriage by Design podcast. Family Friday is a time where we talk about what God has to say in the Bible about parenting and families, just some practical ways that we parent and do the family thing in our home. So Nathan, what are we talking about this month?
So this month, super excited to talk about technology. So if you know very much about Andrea and I at all, you know that we are pretty passionate about this particular topic. We're blessed, really, to grow up in a time, the information age, right, where there's tons of cool TVs and computers and the internet and fun app games and TikTok and Facebook and YouTube and all these kinds of cool things, right? And there's some ways that's amazing.
It is.
And we can tape a show in our bedroom, not that we're in our bedroom, but we can tape a podcast show. We are, our studio's in the bedroom. And put it out on YouTube and everybody can watch it, and it's great. And same thing for podcasts, Apple Podcasts and all the rest, and it's amazing.
And the fact that you can hold, remember the days where you used to buy the whole encyclopedia set from the door-to-door sales guy?
Man.
And
Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, it was how many volumes. It was very expensive, and that's where you went to get your Trivial Pursuit answers.
Oh man, can you imagine now?
And it was like that was the most information you could have in one place.
And I love
about
those things.
A lot of different things, Yeah, they were great. But now we carry that and infinite times more information in our pockets.
That's right.
It's crazy. It's amazing.
That's right. And I don't know if you can believe this or not. This is mind-bending to me. But as of the time that we're recording this video, we've only had the iPhone for just a touch over a decade.
Really?
That's incredible.
It is.
You talk to people now and it's like hard to even remember what life was like back before smartphones. And you remember, man, back when, right before the iPhone came out, phones were getting like smaller and slender. You remember the Razor? Where it's like you flip it open and it's this really flat phone.
Yeah, the cooler thing was to have like the smallest, thinnest phone.
Right, man, did that go away quickly. My phone now, the one that we are taping this on, is like the size of my whole head. You remember we used to watch Saved by the Bell? And not that any one of you guys watch that because it's not sanctified and all that, of course. But but certain people whose parents were not as strict as mine got to watch Saved by the Bell.
You didn't get to watch Saved by the Bell?
And we're going to need to deal with this on a separate bitterness episode.
Okay.
But Zach Morris had the giant phone.
Brick. It was a brick.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then we went to really skinny and now we're back. Well, why? Because like you said, our phones can do a million things now. And a decade ago, when smartphones started really becoming amazing, we thought this is incredible. Right? We can have all this knowledge and information right at our fingertips. The thing we carried around in our pocket was more powerful of a computing device than most of the computers we had spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to have in our phone, where you plug it in and it goes...
on our desks. Yeah.
Right, to connect to the internet. That wasn't that long ago. Now you can do all of that right from your phone. It was incredible. Well, as we've thought about that now, we have to reevaluate as parents, what does it mean to have that kind of technology right at our fingertips, right as parents, but also at the fingertips of our kids. And Andrea and I are super passionate about it because as more and more studies are coming out, because a lot of studies take years before they come to a final conclusion. So starting 3 or 4 years ago, these studies started coming out of what all of this technology is doing to our kids. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to take a month to share with you not only what we found out with regards to the effects technology has on our children, but we also wanted to give an opportunity for my brother, who's obviously a very dear friend of mine, and a gentleman that he works with named Brandon, we're going to give them 2 whole weeks on this episode to talk from the law enforcement standpoint, as that is both what they do for a living, and not just any kind of law enforcement, but the kind of law enforcement that deals with children who are being taken advantage of almost always through inappropriate use of technology.
Yeah, they work a lot with that. So those will be really great and really insightful, hopefully, episodes.
Right. So the next 2 weeks. So please don't miss the next 2 Family Fridays. We're going to do them interview style. Have Jordan and Brandon up here just talking. And they go around and share this with schools and churches and really anyone that will listen, because they're so passionate about how much trouble our kids can get into really inadvertently most of the time. And unfortunately, there are huge groups of people that sit around all day just trying to figure out how to take advantage of children, which is disgusting to think about, but it's a reality. And we have a responsibility to our children to think about that. So that's going to be the next 2 weeks. So what's the flow of the month going to look like? So today we want to talk about why we picked this topic from a biblical standpoint. Then we want to talk a little bit about what the effect of technology has been and is on children right now while they're children, right? So as we have studied this and figured out, well, what's the problem, right, with lots of TV or lots of technology time or, video games or apps or all those kinds of things people can do? What's the problem with that? And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. What's the problem with it right now? Then we're going to have Jordan and Brandon in, and we're going to talk really about the danger of technology for the future of our children, right? Not just now, but there's a danger down the road, that innocence being stolen from them, and all the other difficult things to kind of think about with regards to technology, the dangers of technology, the dangers but reality of child predators and those kinds of things. Then in week 4, we want to come back and talk practically, right? What can we do as parents to try and protect our children from the very real dangers of technology, right? So first we want to talk about why this topic. So we talked a little bit about smart devices, of course.
Yep.
Andrea and I are not cave people, right? I mean, you're not going to hear us advocate for having a 0 TV house, or you read aloud with your kids and that's their television, right? I mean, we're not going down that road. All we're saying is let's take a realistic and common sense approach to technology within our homes.
Yeah.
And why, babe?
Right. Well, because the way that the world is now is technology is seeped into everything.
Yeah.
And with that comes a lot of, like Nathan was saying, there are people who spend their lives trying to figure out how to take the innocence away from children.
Right.
And a lot of that can be done really easily through technology.
Fortunately.
We, as parents, are probably teaching our kids about stranger danger. Are we really teaching them to be vigilant?
Yeah.
When they're being attacked in your own home and by an invisible enemy, so it's so important to know what you're up against. It's important to know how your kids can fall prey to some things, a lot of times innocently. It's just so important for us as parents to really think about, how do we combat those things? How do we try to protect our children's innocence? How do we have these conversations with our children? What to look out for and all that sort of thing.
Right. And you might be listening to this going, okay, scare tactic.
You crazy.
Right? And it isn't just that, although as you'll hear in the next couple of weeks, those things are real. And if we put our head in the sand or think that's something that happens, in huge cities or, backwater towns, it's not. It happens everywhere. And we will deal with that.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something about that before?
No, another reason is I strongly believe in not raising people who are going to be predators. And
yeah,
I think that, the statistics show that kids are being introduced to porn at very young ages. The average age is 11. And
oftentimes inadvertently.
Right. But the younger the age, the more likely that child will grow up to struggle with porn, having some sexual deviancy, and that sort of thing. So I strongly believe in trying to be vigilant to help raise children who don't have a demand for the things that are atrocious in this world.
Yeah, totally. Which really gets back to, at the end of the day, why we pick this topic is because we believe that the Bible teaches that all of us are created in the image of God. Mm-hmm. We're all designed to be His children. We're designed to be princes and princesses in the paradise that He's creating for us in heaven, and we're designed to live out our lives for His glory. And part of that for us as parents is taking a stewardship look at our role in our children's lives. So often we talk about my children, right? Our children. You hear that, we say that all the time on this podcast, our children, our daughter, our sons. But when we look at that really from a biblical standpoint, what we really ought to be saying is God's children, right, that we're raising. Right. He has given us a stewardship responsibility with regards to those children that we need to take seriously. And part of that is recognizing the dangers that are around us and being proactive and intentional as parents to protect our kids against those things. And you may feel like, hey, the chances of my child being, victimized by a predator are super small. And you might be right in your particular situation, but as we're going to talk about today, the child predator piece, as well as the getting addicted to pornography, being introduced to pornography at a young age, those might be headed down the extreme examples of how technology can be harmful for people.
There's so many other...
But there's a ton of other ways that technology can be harmful in large amounts, right? It's not the technology that's bad, right? It's not Tom and Jerry or, the Teletubbies or Sesame Street that is doing this overtly. Right. It's way more subtle and oftentimes insidious than that. Right. It's the way that the actual electronics affect the brain that can really be damaging to our kids. So that's what we want to talk about a little bit today.
Yeah. So just one of the things that we talk about, in Ephesians 6, it talks about we're not fighting against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and dark powers of this world. Yeah. And so we need to put on the armor of God. So just being vigilant and knowing that there's a lot of enemies to God. There's a lot of things that we can't see that are at work, and we need to be vigilant about that. And so yeah,
totally, yeah. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. So one thing that we want to talk about today is the medical effects of the technology can have on kids. And we have heard a couple of good and read a ton of good articles that really talk about, hey, this amount of technology isn't good for young people. And I'm not just talking about little kids or 10-year-old kids. I'm also talking about teenagers, upper teenagers. I'm talking about from adults. 0 to 20, and some effects never stop affecting you. So, babe, let's talk a little bit about what some of these effects are. Yeah. And before we do that, I'm going to put a link down in the description below along with a description of how to access it. But there is a doctor named Dr. Beelan who does she has an excellent talk that kind of sums all of this up from a medical standpoint that I would highly suggest. Yeah, we heard her speak a couple of years ago at a kickoff to our son's school. And then we found a kind of a copy of this talk that she gave at a local church, and so we want to post that up so that you can hear what she has to say, because while we're going to summarize some of those
from
things,
a medical perspective,
she's the doctor.
That's great.
So
she's a pediatrician.
Yep.
She's done a ton of research into the effects of technology on children, so it's great.
Totally. So lead us off in the discussion, babe. Which direction you want to go first?
Oh, geez. So, there are definitely some reversible and some irreversible effects of technology. So that always makes me nervous with irreversible effects. And again, Dr. Bila talks about that. So I don't want to just copy paste her presentation, but it is important. And at whatever stage we're at, it's whether your kids are teens or whether they're 6 months. It's good to think like, okay, there's still time. I still can learn about this and look at what's the best. So, some of the effects that too much technology can have on kids is we're finding, or the research is finding, that ADHD is higher because of technology. It's that like instant gratification. It's hard then to concentrate in real life. There's
meaning it used to be like, hey, if I want to watch Saturday morning cartoons and it's Tuesday, your parents tell you, hey, buck up. You got 4 days or 5 days,
right,
and then you can have Saturday morning cartoons. Now, if I want Saturday morning cartoons and I have to wait more than 15 seconds for the screen to buffer, I'm upset.
Well, not only that, but like the apps are so just immediate, And if you think about cartoons, remember what are some cartoons we watched? Tom and Jerry. Yeah. It's not real flashy, and the scene changes all the time and whatever. You follow a story. It's not real flashy, I guess. Now think of like SpongeBob SquarePants, and it's it's craziness, and the scene changes, and lots of things going on, and so even
overstimulation.
Even the stimulation part of things have changed. But just think of the apps. You do something and you immediately get the response from an app, like a kid's app that you're using. So anyway, they're seeing increases in ADHD, increases in obesity, and in development, so speech delays, and those sorts of things. So it's having some developmental issues. A lot is related back to just being on technology too much. Go ahead.
Right, and I will add into that, and I will also link this article in the description down below as well. But this also ties into, when, say, we were kids, and we look back on that and we go, well, what'd you get in trouble for? Well, I'd go to the mall with my friends and we'd do something stupid, right? And we'd get in trouble. Or we'd go to a park and we'd, be being too loud at 11:30 at night, and one of the neighbors to the park would call the police or whatever, right? That's how we got in trouble. Well, the point this article is making is all of that kind of trouble is way down in the younger generations.
Yeah, teen pregnancy is down.
Right. All those, that's all those things are down. And at first, these researchers went, well, this is like one of the most well-behaved generations, because all these things we've traditionally looked at as markers for, we'll call it teenage deviancy, were all down. But what this article makes the point is, well, yeah, the problem is no one's going out anymore. Mm-hmm. They're just sitting in their bedroom getting up to the same kind of problematic behavior, but on their devices in their parents' home.
Right.
So a lot of these behaviors that are having lasting negative consequences, are happening 50 steps from the kitchen where mom and dad are sitting.
Right.
And man, that's
crazy.
Shocking.
It's crazy.
Right, to think about. And you're right. One of those things is obesity, right? Because you don't need to go out and run around anymore. I can see the world. Heck, I can sit here and see my buddy that lives across the street from me on my phone screen just as clearly as if he and I were standing out in the street talking, so why stand out in the street talking?
Sure.
It's hot out there.
Sure, yeah. Sleep is another issue that they're finding is really affected. So, the blue light that is on all of the phones and tablets and our TVs too, really suppresses melatonin. And then it affects sleep. So for adults, it can affect sleep, but especially in kids. So a lot of the, resistance to sleep that kids have, a lot of the frequent night wakings, nightmares. Now, don't hear me say all of it's due to technology. It's not, because this just happens too in kids. But
we're seeing
research
increases
shows
in those things.
lot of increase in it because of the blue light in technology. They even have done research that nursing babies, or I guess babies that are taking a bottle or whatever, if their parent that was feeding them was looking at a phone, or even just the ambient blue light from that, those children woke, don't quote me on this, but I think it was 4 times more at night as compared to other children who didn't have that. So it's even affecting just not even kids who are staring at it, but the ambient light of that. So so just the blue light can be affecting kids' sleep, and their resistance to going to sleep, and the dreams that they're having, and all that sort of thing. So
now here's a practical thing you can do. If you have a smartphone, it almost certainly has a blue light filter now.
yes.
So, if you flip down to if you have like an Android, you flip down from the top, or if you have an iPhone, you're weird, so figure it out for yourself. Now, if you have an iPhone, I know you can do it too in your settings, but there you basically can turn that blue light off.
Right.
And it won't make your screen look a little bit different.
You get used to it, though.
But yeah, you get used to it really
There's
quickly.
no reason for the blue light, at least as far as we've decided for ourselves. So we've flipped our blue light filter on, and so we never have our blue light filter.
Right, because it may be affecting, a lot of people right before they go to bed, they throw their phone on, or their iPad on, or their laptop or whatever, and do a little bit of work or watch a show or whatever right before they go to sleep. And that same blue light is in those devices as well. So if you're having trouble getting to sleep or staying asleep, it might be something to try.
Yeah, kids who fall asleep to television or are watching TV right before they go to bed, the suggestion is to not watch it an hour before going to bed. All those sorts of things, it can be affecting their sleep. So if you as a parent are struggling to get the sleep you want because your kids are struggling, maybe work on that technology piece. The depression side of things.
Yeah, this is huge. This is probably the biggest one for me.
Yeah, we're finding that addiction, and so 50% of teens, and this was several years ago, so it could be even more now, but 50% of teens are saying that they feel addicted to their phones.
And are willing to admit that.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to when I was a teenager, which granted was a long time ago. If somebody had asked me, is there anything that you feel that you're addicted to? I'm not sure I would have had any sort of answer to that.
Even if there was something I thought maybe I would definitely not have admitted that.
Well, but seriously, what was I addicted to in high school? Nothing.
Dreaming about me.
And I'm not. Yes.
What?
And I'm not saying that no high schoolers ever had any sort of, or no teenagers ever had any sort of addictions before technology. Of course. Right. But 50% of teens are saying that they feel addicted to their phones.
Right. Imagine the outcry that we would have in this country if a study came out where they went around and interviewed high school students, and the high school students said 50% of them, 1 out of every 2, said, yeah, you know what, I feel like I'm addicted to alcohol. We would absolutely lose our collective mind as a country, and we should. Yet here we are with 1 out of every 2 kids saying, you know what, I feel like I'm addicted to technology. And this year what did the local school district do for every single kid?
Gave an iPad to every child.
To everyone, because we might have to do some remote learning and we can't ask people to have to go pay for their own. So they gave every single student one of these pieces of technology. The same kind of, they essentially gave, in my scenario, all of the kids in that school district a giant jug of Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
And said, hey, have a good semester. Crazy.
Yeah, so we're seeing a really high, much more heightened cases of depression in teens and young adults. The rate of second highest cause of death in teens and young 20s, suicide.
What's the first one? Accidents.
Yeah, car accidents. 75% of teens. Okay, just take a second and think of how many hours a day do you think I'm going to say? 75% of teens have a smart device, and they spend how many hours a day on it? Not including school time. How many hours a day do you think that they spend on it?
3.
7.
That's 7 hours?
7 hours.
So 75%
of teens have a smart device and spend non-school time 7 hours a day on that. And that, again, this is a couple years old. That statistic is a few years old.
What?
So
think of that.
And they're not consuming the greatest things all the time, because I'm not consuming the greatest things all the time, and neither is a lot of people that I know who are on smart devices. It's not like you're filling yourself full of great things.
Right, I mean, and we're not even talking about, even if you're not looking at pornography.
No. I'm saying just not great things. I mean, I'm just consuming
it's junk food
stuff. Yeah.
At
times, just stuff. Right. So, yeah, they're spending 7 hours a day on a smart device. 75% of teens that have one, and they're spending 7 hours a day on that.
They're probably not even watching Marriage by Design.
Darn it!
That's mind blowing to me, though. And so so how does that play into depression? Right.
Well, yeah. So then the more time we spend watching people that we don't have any interaction with, the more we're depressed. And I mean, there's statistics linked to that.
Sure.
So we're not spending actual time with people.
Right. People that are relatable.
Right. That we're getting to know and they're getting to know us.
Right.
So we're not really being known. And then we're, quote, watching the highlight reel of people that we don't even know, celebrities, people you find interesting on YouTube or whatever. And yeah. And that's leading us down this depression alley of, my life doesn't look like that, or I'm not even known.
Right. And then you couple that with all the social media that we're all neck deep in, with YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and all the rest, where I don't know about you guys, but I don't log on to Facebook very often and see someone writing, I just had a huge fight with my wife and I'm feeling really down, but after I thought about it, I realized I was wrong and I had to go humble myself and apologize to her and restore the relationship. Right? It's not real. Right? So not only are our kids and young people watching these fictionalized stories of perfection, many of which have significant worldview statements that I can bet you, if you're looking from a Christian worldview, do not align with what you believe and certainly do not align with what the Bible teaches. So there's that in the fiction, but then in the reality, they're looking at all these people they do know, but they're only looking at the airbrushed, Facebookized, filtered version of those people's lives. So they look at that buddy that sits across from them in class and they go, man, he took this sweet vacation with his family. I didn't get to go on a vacation this year. He's got this really nice house where they do all this fun stuff, and I've just got this house, and their mind starts getting filled with everyone else's life is better than mine.
Heck, I struggle with that at times.
Sure.
With looking at social media.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm 30-something years old.
Right. Right, but this is why, for our young people, they're growing up and they have this sense of hopelessness chasing them around.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, everybody else's life is better than mine, and I keep working really hard, but everybody else's life keeps getting better. And then plus the disconnect from what you said, which is important, being known. Right? There is something about us as human beings that is driven to be truly known.
And to be accepted.
And to be accepted. And ultimately, we as Christians know that should drive us to the cross, because ultimately, the only one we can truly be known by in every way is Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
And he, even knowing all the horrible things I would do, chose to come down to earth and give his life for me. That's the ultimate act of acceptance. Not acceptance of my sin, but acceptance of how much he loves me and that he had to do something to make a way for me to be with him. And yet, instead, we've got no one knowing me because I'm not even... How often have you been at a restaurant and there are people sitting there at the restaurant 5 feet away from other people and they're not talking, they're just on their phone? In some cases, texting the people at the table. It's incredible to me that we have accepted a society where we completely shun human interactivity, right? If you're into TikTok and you love to dance and act silly, then go do it. But you can do it around real people too. It doesn't have to just be behind a screen. And it creates this real air of distrust, disloyalty, and the fear of being truly known.
Yep. So the suggestion kind of coming in for a landing and talking about, okay, well, then what? Well, the recommendation is that kids spend 30 minutes a day or less on technology. On, that's TV.
Outside of schoolwork.
Right. Outside, well, ideally including schoolwork, but we're in crazy times right now.
Yes.
So that's like TV, smart device, phone, computer, whatever. The ideal is that 30 minutes a day or less, and you can bank some of that. So if you're going to do a family, like we do family movie nights on Sundays, most days our kids don't do any technology, so we have all that time kind of banked up to do a family movie night on Sundays. We don't allow our kids to have access to the internet at all unless we're with them. And our kids are 10 and under.
Right.
So that's kind of where we've come at with that. And you may be listening to this and thinking, you guys are nuts if you think that we're going to do 30 minutes a day or less. Like, how am I going to get anything done around here? When am I going to have time to do X, Y, Z, whatever? And I get it, because technology can be a really great babysitter. It can be a really great tool. Well, I mean, there are great things about technology too. It can be a great tool with learning. It can be a great thing for a lot of things. But what Nathan and I have fallen on is a lot of times the better thing is the harder thing. And so it's hard to make the choice that we're just not going to do much technology. Yeah, my house would be a lot cleaner if we did more technology. Yeah. I'd be able to actually remember to text people back probably if we did more technology, get back to everybody that I should, or have phone calls without being interrupted every 30 seconds, all those sorts of things. That my laundry would not sit out for days. It would actually get folded and put away if I just sat them in front of the TV for a while. But we've made a choice as a family that that's not what we're going to be about, because I want to do everything I can for my kids and to give them the best, leg up, I guess. to give them the best physical, spiritual, mental health that I can. And this is one of those big deals to us. So instead of having the cleanest house that I could have, my kids get involved with cleaning, and rather than them sitting in front of the TV watching a show for an hour, we go around, and as best as a 2, 4, and 10-year-old can clean, we, along with mom, we clean the house for a while. They get involved, or I get a project out for them to do, and I do some things, whatever. It's harder, but we've just made the decision that that's more important to us.
Yeah. Another suggestion I would make is when your kids get, and you heard Andrea's statistic at the beginning of the episode, that generally kids are being exposed to pornography at 11 years old. So it would be wise for you to sit down and talk with your kids probably before 11 about those types of things. So Jackson's 10. We sat down and talked with him not that long ago about kind of the first stage of sort of the sex talk. And we talked about what sex is. We talked about what God designed sex to be. And one of the reasons why we did that at probably a younger age, certainly a younger age than I wish I had to do that, was because we wanted to be able, as part of that conversation, to talk about pornography and tie that into why we have the rules that we have within our home with regards to technology, what pornography is, what he's to do if he finds himself in a situation where all of a sudden these things are being exposed to him. Because look, we're not around him all the time. And he knows what the expectations are with regards to technology when he's at other people's houses or whatever. But the reality of the matter is I don't have complete control over those situations. And so if he gets in a situation where he's exposed to something like that, I wanted him to know, here's what you do, right? Come talk to me. There's not judgment here. If that happens, we need to deal with it as a family. And you need to know what to do and how to recognize it so that you know this is wrong. Because one of the biggest things about pornography is it can immediately put particularly a young man on his heels about trying to understand what that was, what it means. And it can create this sort of closet drive in a young man's life to explore that further, because it felt so different from what I'm used to, and that then can tie into creating the pathways for that addiction. So talk about it, right, with your kids so that they know, why do we have these rules? And with your younger kids, you can share some of these statistics and say, we're going to be serious about this because sleep is important for you, because focus is important for you. And so we have created a few carve-outs in our week where we intentionally have some television time, and Jackson has opportunities to earn additional time to play video games and do some of the things that he likes. But it's not a given that he gets those. Right? Those are things where they have to mean enough to him that he earns them.
And we do one, again, to say, we're not completely against it. We do 1 day a year. It's the day after Thanksgiving.
It's the purge.
Oh my gosh, where our kids are allowed video games, TV, movies, whatever, all day long. I mean, it's crazy. It's from the time they wake up until the time they go to bed. And by the end of that day, everyone's like, I'm so tired of looking at a screen. I don't want to look at a screen for another, year.
Right.
Which is not true the next day that they're ready again. But it's a fun thing. It's really been great memories for us.
Right.
And something that the kids really look forward to. So, we do that. We play video games together. Jackson loves video games.
Sure.
So.
Sure. Yeah.
We do all that stuff.
Yeah. This is not a anti-technology for the sake of technology thing, right? It's that we need to be serious and intentional about protecting our children. And Andrea presented some just incredible statistics, and I know that's just a surface level of what Dr. Beelan talks about. And what more and more articles are now coming out and saying that these things are really dangerous. And we just need to be careful.
So really encourage you, don't stick your head in the sand.
Yeah.
Really consider what you should be doing with technology and your kids.
Totally. Yeah, that's great. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you being here. Please, please, please set a reminder to join us next Friday and the Friday after. We will have Jordan and Brandon here as guests. If you will, just down below, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and then hit the bell next to it.
Ding.
That will notify you when that episode comes out, as well as the rest of our episodes. If you are catching us on podcast, love you to make sure that you get set the reminders to be able to know when new things come out on there as well, because they really have some things to share that are important for parents to hear. Right, and you can listen to them, and then you can walk away from that and go, you know what, I think we're fine doing what we're doing. Great. It's your family, but we really want to arm you. That's the whole purpose of Family Fridays, is to arm you with actionable knowledge about what we can do to raise our families to the best of our ability to the glory of God.
Cool.
Awesome. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Remember, God is for your family. Have a great weekend.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Marriage by Design. If you were impacted by this video, like it by hitting the thumbs up below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and once you subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when new episodes release.
Excellent. Also, one of the huge pillars of our show is interactivity between us and you. So we would love you to comment down in the comments below if you have thoughts about this video, or if you have questions or other things you'd like to see considered in the future. In addition, if you'd like, you can email us. That's marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram @marriagebydesignpodcast, or you can find us on Facebook by searching Marriage by Design Podcast. Finally, if you want to, you can tweet at us. We do have a Twitter account that is @MarriageXDesign. Thanks, and have a great day.